deep dive.
Oh, yeah.
Today we're going to be diving into something very fascinating.
All right.
The potential creation of a United States of Africa.
Oh, wow.
And not just someday,
Mm-hmm.
but potentially
Okay.
as soon as 2026.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So buckle up. We're about to explore some pretty passionate arguments.
Okay.
Some pretty intriguing historical connections, maybe
Okay.
even a few conspiracy theories
Okay.
on the way.
All right. I'm ready.
All right, so
Yep.
our sources today.
Okay.
We've got a fiery YouTube video advocating for this USAfrica,
Okay.
and then we've got a whole rabbit hole of websites,
Okay.
UnitedStatesAfrica.com and USAfrica,
Oh, wow.
that are packed with history
Mhm.
arguments
Okay.
and a whole lot more.
Well, it's pretty fascinating how this idea is capturing attention.
Yeah.
And these sources kind of offer a glimpse into
Yeah.
the motivations driving this whole movement. What really strikes me is that this isn't just
Right.
a theoretical debate.
Yeah.
It's fueled by this tangible sense of urgency.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
The YouTube video, it's from the Big Island Reporter channel.
Oh, okay.
It practically bursts with that urgency.
Right.
It's this really powerful call to action, urging Africans to break free from what the video calls
Yeah.
the lingering grip of colonialism,
Oh, wow.
and to unite, to harness the continent's vast resources.
I see.
You know,
Yeah.
the video's call for unity by 2026 is certainly ambitious. Yeah.
And while that timeline might seem
Yeah.
incredibly tight, it really speaks to this deep-seated desire for change and a belief in Africa's potential.
Yeah.
And I think the video really leans into the economic angle, emphasizing the historical exploitation that Africa has endured
Right.
and suggesting that a united Africa could become like a global powerhouse,
I see. Yeah.
economically.
That passion is definitely there. But then we land on the UnitedStatesAfrica.com website,
Oh.
and it's surprisingly simple.
Oh.
Almost stark,
Mm-hmm.
considering the grand vision it's promoting.
That is an interesting observation. Maybe that simplicity is like a deliberate choice,
Yeah.
aiming to make this concept accessible to a wide audience.
Yeah.
And I think those live traffic stats ticking away on the site hint that more and more people are becoming curious about this.
Yeah. Okay, so the website's design
Yeah.
might not win any awards,
Right.
but then we dig into the USA4US.pdf document,
Okay.
and things take a really intriguing turn.
Right.
We're introduced to Mark K. Wood,
Okay.
who's the founder of the USA4US movement,
Okay.
and his connection to this vision is surprisingly personal.
Oh, personal stories often provide a compelling window into these historical movements.
Yeah.
What's the story behind Wood's connection to the U.S.-Africa concept?
Well, back in 1987, Wood interviewed boxing legend Muhammad Ali.
All right.
And when he asked Ali what event he'd most like to see in his lifetime, Ali's answer was a united Africa.
Wow.
And he even talked about how his fight in Zaire,
Oh, okay.
now the Democratic Republic of Congo, sparked that vision for him.
Interesting.
Ali witnessed the entire continent rallying behind him,
Okay.
transcending borders.
Yeah.
And it kind of gave him this glimpse of the potential for
Wow.
truly unified Africa.
That's a pretty powerful anecdote.
Yeah.
Connecting a moment of sporting triumph to a grand political vision.
Right.
It really highlights the emotional resonance this idea holds.
Yeah.
Tapping into this desire for unity and shared identity that transcends national boundaries.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the document adds another layer of intrigue
Okay.
by claiming that Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi
Okay.
was so inspired by USAfrica's early efforts
Okay.
that he pledged a staggering $90 billion
Wow.
to the creation of a USAfrica.
I-
Whether that claim can be verified
Right.
is another question.
Yeah.
But it adds this
Yeah.
geopolitical dimension to this whole
mean,
narrative.
That claim, whether true or not,
Right.
raises crucial questions about the economic feasibility
Yeah.
of such a project.
Yeah.
Could a United States of Africa realistically be created with such
Yeah.
a large sum?
Yeah.
What other economic factors would need to be considered?
Right.
And how would a unified Africa navigate the complexities of global finance, especially considering the existing ties to the petrodollar system?
Yeah, those are important questions.
Yeah.
Especially when the YouTube video talks about breaking free from that petrodollar
Yeah.
and establishing a new African currency.
Right.
What would that even entail?
Well, the petrodollar system is essentially the global reliance on the U.S. dollar for oil transactions.
Okay.
Breaking free from that system would be a monumental undertaking, requiring careful planning and the creation of a stable and widely accepted alternative currency.
Yeah.
It's a bold proposal, but one that would need to address this complex web of economic and political factors to be successful.
It seems like achieving unity goes far beyond just rallying people behind a shared vision.
Right.
There's some serious practical hurdles to overcome.
Yeah.
And speaking of hurdles, the USA4US.pdf document doesn't shy away from the challenges inherent in uniting a continent as diverse as Africa.
Right. The document's acknowledgement of these challenges lends a degree of credibility to their arguments.
Yeah.
What specific challenges do they highlight?
Well, they lay out the historical context, outlining Africa's long struggles with coups, civil wars, and political instability.
Okay.
It's a sobering reminder that uniting 54 nations, each with its own unique history, culture, and political system, would be a truly monumental task.
And the document doesn't stop there.
Right.
It goes on to suggest that external forces, often referred to as like the powers that be, might actually benefit from a fragmented Africa.
Right.
This argument ventures into the realm of conspiracy theory a little bit.
Yeah.
But it does raise important questions about the potential geopolitical obstacles to African unity.
They even delve into the assassination of Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, framing it as part of a larger effort to prevent African unity.
I see.
Well, that's a bold claim that requires careful scrutiny. It highlights the complex web of international relations that a USAfrica would have to navigate.
It's crucial to approach such claims with a critical eye, considering multiple perspectives and evaluating the evidence. Conspiracy theories can sometimes distract from the core issues. So it's important to stay focused on the tangible challenges and opportunities presented by the USAfrica concept, trying to keep it grounded.
Right. It's clear that creating a United States of Africa would be a monumental undertaking, to say the least.
Yeah.
It's like trying to piece together this giant puzzle where some of the pieces are missing, others are damaged, and the overall picture keeps changing.
That's a very vivid image. It speaks to the complexities of reconciling the diverse national interests, overcoming these historical divisions, and addressing the legacy of colonialism, which still casts a long shadow over the continent.
You're right.
Yeah.
The document actually argues that the artificial borders imposed by colonial powers are at the root of many of Africa's problems, dividing communities, fueling conflict. Unwinding that legacy would be a huge part of this unification process.
The impact of those colonial borders is undeniable.
Right.
They often cut across existing ethnic and cultural lines, creating these divisions that have persisted long after independence. And any attempt to unite Africa would need to address these deeply ingrained divisions and find ways to foster a sense of shared identity and purpose.
So how do you even begin to tackle a challenge of that magnitude?
Right.
The USA4US.pdf document does mention some existing initiatives like the African Union, which aims to promote cooperation and integration among African nations. Is that a step in the right direction?
The African Union is certainly a step towards greater unity. But as the document points out, it's been criticized for lacking the power and resources to effectively address the continent's challenges. It's a reminder that structural change is needed, not just symbolic gestures.
They also talk about the need for strong leadership. But then they throw in this line that really caught my eye. Africa's leaders cannot unite Africa. The people can.
Oh, wow.
What do you make of that?
That statement really speaks to the idea that true unity can't be imposed from the top down. It needs to emerge from a groundswell of grassroots support. It suggests that lasting change requires a shift in mindset, a collective embrace of a shared African identity that transcends national and ethnic divisions.
It's like they're saying that a United States of Africa won't be born in some conference room filled with diplomats,
Right.
but rather in the hearts and minds of everyday people who demand a better future for themselves and their children.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's about empowering individuals and communities to become agents of change,
Right.
to take ownership of their destiny and work together to build a shared future.
But even with the best intentions
Yeah.
and a strong grassroots movement, wouldn't a unified Africa still face the same old problems?
Right.
Corruption, political instability, lack of infrastructure.
Right.
These issues seem deeply ingrained
They do.
in many parts of the continent.
Those are valid concerns.
Yeah.
And the document acknowledges that overcoming these challenges would require a fundamental shift in governance and a commitment to transparency, accountability, and equitable development.
Right.
It wouldn't be an easy fix.
It's like they're acknowledging that creating a United States of Africa isn't just about drawing new lines on a map.
Right.
It's about building a new system from the ground up.
Yes.
One that addresses the root causes of these persistent problems.
Exactly. It's about tackling systemic issues like poverty,
Right.
inequality, and lack of access to education and healthcare.
Yeah.
These are the underlying factors that often fuel instability and conflict.
So where does that leave us? Is a United States of Africa a realistic goal or a far-fetched dream?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
These sources present a compelling case for unity, but they also acknowledge the immense hurdles.
Right.
It's a delicate balancing act between optimism and pragmatism.
Okay. But let's say, just for argument's sake, that a U.S.-Africa could overcome these obstacles. What would that mean for the continent? How would it change things on a practical level?
Well, on a practical level, a unified Africa could potentially unlock a range of economic benefits. The document talks about creating a single market, harmonizing trade policies, and pooling resources to invest in infrastructure and development projects.
Right.
This kind of collaboration could potentially boost economic growth and improve living standards across the continent.
That makes sense. A larger, more unified market could attract more foreign investment and give African businesses greater leverage on the global stage.
Precisely. A unified Africa could also potentially wield more political clout. On the international scene, giving the continent a stronger voice in global affairs.
But wouldn't a U.S.-Africa also face new challenges?
It would.
I mean, managing the affairs of such a large and diverse entity would be incredibly complex.
Absolutely. There would be new challenges in terms of governance, representation, and resource allocation. Finding a system that balances national interest with the needs of a unified continent would be crucial.
The document also mentions this intriguing idea of Africa becoming the world's first green superpower. Can you explain what they mean by that?
They argue that because Africa is less industrialized than other regions, it has this unique opportunity to leapfrog over fossil fuels and embrace renewable energy sources like solar, wind, and hydroelectric power.
I see.
They envision a future where Africa leads the world in sustainable development, powered by its abundant natural resources.
It's like turning a perceived disadvantage into a strategic advantage. They're saying that Africa can bypass the dirty, polluting stages of industrialization that other parts of the world went through and go straight to a clean, green future.
Exactly. And this vision has the potential to attract investment, create jobs, and position Africa as a leader in the global fight against climate change. They even talk about a massive solar array in the Sahara Desert.
Wow.
That could potentially power the entire continent.
That's an incredibly ambitious idea.
It is.
But could it actually work? Wouldn't Africa still need to address issues like inadequate infrastructure and lack of technical expertise to make something like that happen?
Those are legitimate concerns. The success of such a project would depend on overcoming those infrastructure challenges and developing the necessary technical expertise.
So it's not just about having the right resources. It's about having the capacity to harness those resources effectively. It sounds like a United States of Africa would need to make some serious investments in education and training.
They would.
To make this green superpower vision a reality.
You're absolutely right, investing in human capital. particularly in areas like science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Right, STEM.
Yeah.
Essential.
But even if Africa could overcome those challenges, wouldn't there still be a risk that those same old problems of corruption and mismanagement could undermine these ambitious goals?
That's a valid point.
Yeah.
Achieving a sustainable and equitable green future would require a commitment to good governance, transparency, and accountability at all levels.
It's like they're saying that going green isn't just about adopting new technologies. It's about adopting new ways of thinking and governing.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's about a holistic approach to development that prioritizes people and the planet.
And that brings us back to the fundamental question.
Yeah.
Could a United States of Africa be the key
Right.
to unlocking this kind of transformative change?
Yeah.
Could that level of unity be what's needed to overcome these deep-seated challenges and achieve this ambitious vision?
That's a fascinating question to consider, isn't it?
Yeah. Would a unified Africa be better equipped to tackle these complex issues and chart a new course for the continent?
It's like we've reached a fork in the road. On one path, we have the status quo with all its familiar challenges and limitations. On the other path, we have this bold, untested vision of a united Africa with all its potential and uncertainty.
And the document leaves us with this provocative thought.
Okay.
The future belongs to those who dare to dream. It's an invitation to imagine what's possible.
Right.
To consider whether a United States of Africa could be the catalyst for a brighter future for the continent.
But even if a USAfrica doesn't come to fruition, the very act of imagining it, of debating its merits and challenges, forces us to engage with some fundamental questions.
It does.
About identity, governance, and the future of Africa.
You're right. It compels us to think critically about the forces that shape our world and to consider alternative paths forward.
Okay, before we get too lost in the hypothetical, let's bring this back to something a little more concrete.
All right.
The document spends quite a bit of time outlining the potential economic benefits of a USAfrica.
Okay.
Specifically, this idea of creating a single African currency.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that?
Creating a single African currency would be a complex undertaking with both potential benefits and significant challenges.
Yeah.
On the one hand, it could simplify trade, reduce transaction costs, and foster greater economic integration across the continent.
It's like the euro for Africa.
Yeah.
A single currency could make it easier for businesses to operate across borders.
Right.
And could potentially attract more foreign investment.
Exactly. But on the other hand, there are significant challenges to consider. For a single currency to be successful, it would require a high degree of economic convergence among participating countries. Meaning that their economies would need to be at similar stages of development and have comparable levels of inflation, interest rates, and government debt.
So it's not just about printing new banknotes. It's about aligning entire economic systems.
Precisely. And then there's the question of who would control this new currency and how monetary policy would be set. Would there be a central bank for Africa? And if so, how would it be structured and governed?
That raises some interesting questions.
It does.
About power dynamics and decision-making within a USAfrica. Who would have the final say on monetary policy? And how would the interests of different countries be balanced?
Those are crucial questions that would need to be carefully addressed.
And let's not forget the political challenges.
Right.
Could 54 countries with diverse political systems and ideologies agree on a single currency and a unified monetary policy?
That's a major hurdle.
Yeah.
And it highlights the interconnectedness of the economic and political dimensions of this idea.
Yeah.
The success of a single African currency would depend not just on economic factors, but also on the ability to build political consensus and trust among member states.
It sounds like creating a United States of Africa wouldn't just be about merging borders and economies. It would be about forging a new political identity and a shared sense of purpose.
Absolutely. It would require a fundamental shift in mindset, a willingness to embrace a Pan-African identity that transcends national and ethnic divisions.
Okay, but let's be realistic.
Okay.
Even if there's widespread support for unity, wouldn't there still be powerful forces, both within and outside Africa,
There would be.
That would resist such a dramatic change.
You're right to point that out.
Yeah.
There would likely be resistance from those who benefit from the status quo.
Right.
Both within Africa and internationally.
Yeah.
Some African leaders might see a US-Africa as a threat to their power or influence, while some global powers might view a unified Africa as a challenge to their geopolitical interests.
It's like the old saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Could a US-Africa inadvertently strengthen the hand of those who oppose Western dominance, even if that wasn't the intended goal?
That's a complex question.
Yeah, it is.
With no easy answers.
Right.
They would depend on how a US-Africa positions itself on the global stage and how it chooses to engage with various international actors.
It sounds like a US-Africa would face some tough choices.
They would.
About its foreign policy and its role in the global balance of power.
Right.
Would it align itself with the West, the East, or chart an independent course?
Those are some of the fundamental questions that a US-Africa would need to grapple with.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that creating a unified continent wouldn't just be about internal challenges. It would also involve navigating a complex and often unpredictable global landscape.
Okay, let's shift gears for a moment and talk about something that really piqued my curiosity.
Oh, okay.
This idea of a green superpower. The document paints a compelling picture of Africa leading the world in sustainable development. But it also acknowledges that the continent currently lags behind in some key areas.
You're referring to the challenges related to infrastructure technology and human capital.
Exactly.
That we discussed earlier.
They talk about the need for massive investments in renewable energy infrastructure, like solar and wind farms, but also in things like power grids, transportation networks, and education systems.
You're right. Those are all essential components of a sustainable and thriving economy. Without adequate infrastructure, it's difficult to transport goods, connect people, and deliver essential services like electricity and clean water.
So it's not just about building shiny new solar panels. It's about creating the entire ecosystem needed to support a green economy.
Precisely. And that includes investing in education and training to develop a skilled workforce that can design, build, and maintain these complex systems.
They also talk about the importance of protecting Africa's biodiversity and natural resources as part of this green vision.
That's a crucial point. Africa is home to some of the world's most valuable ecosystems. From rainforests to savannas to coastal areas. Preserving these ecosystems is essential not just for environmental reasons, but also for economic reasons. These natural resources provide livelihoods for millions of people and contribute significantly to Africa's economy through tourism, agriculture, and fishing.
So it's not just about going green.
It's not.
It's about going green in a way that's sustainable and equitable. That benefits all Africans and preserves the continent's natural heritage for future generations.
Exactly. It's about finding a balance between economic development and environmental protection. A balance that ensures that future generations inherit a healthy and prosperous continent.
But even if a US-Africa could achieve all of these ambitious goals, unity, economic prosperity, a green future, wouldn't there still be a risk that these gains could be undermined by those same old problems? Corruption, inequality, lack of accountability.
That's a critical question.
It is.
And it highlights the importance of addressing the root causes of these persistent challenges. Creating a truly successful and sustainable US-Africa would require a fundamental shift in governance, a commitment to transparency, accountability, and the rule of law.
It's like they're saying that building a new Africa isn't just about changing the outward structures.
It's not.
It's about changing the underlying values and principles that guide those structures.
Precisely. It's about creating a culture of ethical leadership, responsible citizenship, and a shared commitment to the common good.
But how do you foster that kind of cultural shift? It seems like such a daunting task.
It is.
Especially given the deep-seated historical and political complexities we've been discussing.
It would certainly be a long and challenging process. but the document suggests that education and awareness raising are key.
Okay.
It emphasizes the importance of empowering citizens to hold their leaders accountable and to demand a system that serves their needs and aspirations.
So it's about creating a bottom-up movement for change.
It is.
Where citizens are actively engaged in shaping your own future.
Exactly. It's about fostering a sense of ownership and responsibility.
Yeah.
Empowering people to become agents of change.
Right.
Rather than passive recipients of decisions made by others.
This all ties back to that line we discussed earlier.
Right.
Africa's leaders cannot unite Africa, the people can. It's a powerful reminder that lasting change starts with the people.
It does.
With a collective will to create a better future.
Absolutely. It's a call to action.
Yeah. An invitation to imagine a different kind of Africa.
Right.
One that is united, prosperous, and sustainable. It's a vision that may seem audacious.
Yeah.
Even impossible.
Right.
But as the document reminds us, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
And sometimes the most transformative journeys begin with a single idea.
They do.
A spark of imagination that ignites a movement for change.
Indeed. And the idea of a United States of Africa with all its complexities and challenges is certainly a spark that has the potential to ignite profound change on the continent and beyond.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
Exploring the arguments for and against USAfrica, historical context, the potential benefits and challenges, and the role of the people in driving change.
We've delved into the economic, political, and environmental dimensions of this concept, examining the complexities of creating a single currency, navigating the global balance of power, and pursuing a sustainable green future. It's been a fascinating journey.
It has.
But it's clear that the story of a United States of Africa is still being written.
And it's a story that's unfolding in real time. Shaped by the actions and decisions of individuals, communities, and leaders across the continent.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we leave you, our listener, with a final question.
All right.
What role will you play in shaping the future of Africa?
Yeah, it's a powerful question to consider, isn't it? The future of Africa is ultimately in the hands of its people, and the choices they make will really shape the continent's destiny. These sources present a bold vision, but it's up to individuals to decide whether they believe in that vision and what role they're willing to play in making it a reality.
It's almost like a choose-your-own-adventure story for an entire continent.
Yeah.
Do you stick with the familiar, with all its known challenges, or do you take this leap of faith and try to forge this new path, even if it's fraught with uncertainty?
And that uncertainty is part of what makes this topic so captivating. There are no easy answers, no guarantees of success. It's a grand experiment, a gamble on a scale that's rarely seen in human history.
But even if a full-fledged US-Africa doesn't materialize in our lifetime, the very act of striving for it, of debating these ideas and challenging the status quo, is a powerful force in itself. It forces people to think differently, to imagine new possibilities, to question assumptions that have held the continent back for far too long.
Precisely. It's about shifting the narrative, moving beyond those tired tropes of poverty, conflict, and aid dependency, and embracing a new narrative of African agency, innovation, and potential. These sources, whether you agree with their conclusions or not, they challenge us to reimagine what Africa can be.
You know, one of the things that struck me most about these sources was the emphasis on the power of ideas. They argue that a US-Africa won't be created through military might or political maneuvering, but through a shift in consciousness, a shared belief in a common destiny.
That's a crucial point. They're talking about the power of collective imagination, the ability to envision a future that's different from the present, and to work together to make that vision a reality. It's about creating a shared narrative, a story that resonates with people across the continent and inspires them to act.
It's like planting a seed. You might not see the tree grow to its full height in your lifetime, but you know that the potential is there, waiting to be nurtured and cultivated.
And that nurturing and cultivating happens at multiple levels, from individual actions to community initiatives to policy decisions at the national and continental levels. It's about creating an environment where this idea of a United States of Africa can take root and flourish.
It's clear that the journey towards a US-Africa, if it happens at all, will be long and complex with twists and turns along the way. But as we've seen from these sources, the very act of embarking on that journey of daring to dream of a different future is a powerful force for change in itself.
And ultimately, that's what we hope you take away from this deep dive, our listener. A sense of possibility, a recognition that the future is not predetermined, and that even the most audacious dreams can inspire real and lasting change.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep imagining what a united Africa could become. Because who knows, maybe someday that dream will become a reality. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.